Today we're going to talk about foreclosures and how there are many more of them starting to hit the market and why you might want to buy one, as well as how home flippers have taken on some very risky loans over the past couple of years, and this has helped amplify the foreclosure situation. But first, let's start off with the foreclosures in general, guys. Right now, as of December of 2025, foreclosures are up 14% year over year. We had over 367,000 foreclosure filings in 2025, with over 44,000 of those happening just in December alone. And the numbers are continuing to increase. And we are likely to see those numbers increase throughout 2026 because of a lot of the things we're going to talk about in this video. However, if you're somebody out there who wants to get a good deal on a home, a foreclosure could be the right fit for you. Now, I'll come out and say, guys, it is not for everybody, because a lot of times foreclosures need a lot of work. Sometimes there are liens on the property that need to be paid at closing. That can be a hidden cost that you might not know about until the title search comes back, as well as the fact that you just might not have the money to sink all the extra cash into one of these homes, because yes, you might be able to get it well under market value. Say the average home in your neighborhood goes for $400,000 and you can get this foreclosure for $250K, but you might need to throw in $100,000 of work on this property in order to actually make it work and be livable and bring it up to standard and have a nice home. So there are trade-offs when it comes to buying a foreclosure, but that's not to convince you not to buy one. It's just to let you know up front that that's what you could be getting yourself into. Now, the other thing is foreclosures are typically released in batches. It's not like all of these 367,000 foreclosures that we saw in 2025 suddenly hit the market. They hit the market in small increments, guys. A few hundred here, a couple thousand there. And even if you're not interested in buying a foreclosure, if you want home prices to come down, this is a good thing, especially if there's a lot of foreclosures in your area, because it brings down the comparable sales price of nearby homes. And some people will say, well, a foreclosure in bad shape is not really a comparable sale compared to a property across the street that's been well maintained and has been fully renovated. And on some level, that is true. But if it's in the same neighborhood and the houses are roughly the same size, it is going to be counted as a comparable sale. That's all that people have to go on in order to determine the value for any given property. This is also great news because it means inventory is increasing. However, you can't just usually find these foreclosure listings on Zillow. Sometimes you do see them, but there is a better way, which I'll get to later in this video. But here's the thing. Like, if you're somebody who's interested in buying one of these foreclosures, you need to be ready, guys. You need to be ready with your finances. You need to be ready with your loan qualification if you're not planning on paying cash. And if you are a cash buyer, that is going to give you some extra leverage. But you don't need to be a cash buyer. You can definitely buy a foreclosure with conventional financing, even FHA financing as well. In fact, all of the foreclosure properties that are listed with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, those foreclosures all allow you to do FHA financing for the most part, which only means 3.5% down. Sometimes they'll even give you a loan to help you finance the repairs on the property, and they also give you first dibs on buying the property, usually 30 days before investors, if you are planning on owner occupying the property. And the best way to find those type of foreclosures that are listed directly with Fannie Mae is homepath.gov. You can go there, sign up for an account for free, and you can see all of those listings available in an area you might be looking in. And owner occupants will always have the first right to purchase those properties. But other ways that you could finance a foreclosure purchase is if you can also get a conventional loan. You could also borrow against another property if you have multiple homes. But the point is, you need to be financially ready to take this on, because foreclosure listings sell pretty fast, and most of them end up selling at auction. That's actually one of the best ways to find foreclosure properties. You know, sometimes they are listed on the MLS, but a lot of them never hit the MLS, guys. Like here in Miami-Dade, we have a website with the Miami-Dade County Clerk's office that takes care of all the foreclosure listings in Miami-Dade County, those properties never hit the MLS for the most part. And every single day of the week almost, they're auctioning off 10, 15 different properties here that you can go ahead and buy. The website here in Miami-Dade County looks something like this. Wherever you live, you can Google something like foreclosure auctions in the name of your county, and you can find the official county website where it will give you the information on where they handle these auctions. In Miami, for example, it's all online now. You don't have to show up to the courthouse steps, but some counties across America might still do it like that, where you actually show up in person and you can bid on the property on site. But one thing that's extremely important if you're going to buy a foreclosure property is you need to make sure you can handle all of the potential problems with that property. I mean, I recommend everybody always get an inspection done on any property you buy, but particularly a foreclosure, you want to go beyond the regular inspection. You want to have an inspector do the general inspection, but it might be worth it to pay for an inspection on the plumbing or an inspection on the electrical, especially if it's an older home. Different things like that that kind of go beyond the scope of the general inspection to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into so there's no hidden surprises later on. You got to remember, these properties get neglected. There can be a ton of deferred maintenance that you're not aware of without some professional help. Oh, check it out, guys. I've never seen this. There's a manatee right here. That is so cool. It just came up for air. And the other thing a lot of people are not aware of is even though foreclosure contracts are always as is, like the bank is selling you that house in as is condition, you're accepting the condition of the property when you buy a foreclosure. However, you don't have to accept it within your due diligence period, because just like any other real estate contract, you might have 7 or 10 days to inspect that property and get a full scope and understanding of all the problems this property might have. So that way, if you're not happy with it or the expenses go beyond what your budget might be, you can back out. You may lose your deposit depending on where you live and how the contract is worded, but it could be worth it to actually lose the deposit rather than get into a property where you are just stuck with a repair bill that's far beyond what you can actually manage. And let me tell you guys, there are a ton of these properties out there. Like I said, over 367,000 last year alone, and every single month, there are many more coming out. Here in Florida, we have a huge foreclosure inventory starting to pile up. If you check out this link to Adam Data that I have down in the description below, it will show you where the most foreclosure filings are happening by state across the country, and that can give you an idea of where to look if you really want to buy a foreclosure, because some states just have far more than others do. But I still recommend that if you're going to buy a foreclosure, unless you have a ton of experience and you have done this a few times before, you're probably still going to want to have a buyer's agent. And I can set you up with one 100% free. All you need to do is use my link down in the description below, and I can get you in contact with somebody on my team ASAP, and they'll be able to help you and walk you through the foreclosure process. And if you use the link, not only does it help you, but it helps out the channel, and I appreciate it. And today I'm walking down 89th and 88th Street here in Miami Shores. Now here in Florida, we are the #1 state on the list in terms of foreclosures. And part of the reason is because there is so much investor activity here. It really has been this way for decades and decades. You know, real estate booms go all the way back to the early 1900s here in Florida, so it is nothing new. But this time around, a lot of it was fueled by how many home flippers got involved in the market, as well as Airbnb investors, people looking to make a quick buck. And a lot of these people use some very bad loans to get into these properties, and many of them are losing these properties because they are completely upside down now. Throw in all the hurricanes and the hurricane damage that came along with it, and regular owners who are being priced out of their homes because they can't afford the taxes and insurance anymore, or they didn't receive a good insurance payout to repair the home properly. There are a ton of reasons why foreclosures are hitting so hard here in Florida. But Cape Coral, Florida, and this general Southwest Florida region is really ground zero for the housing crash at large. And there are so many foreclosures in this area because there's been so many risky flips in the area. You know, traditionally, home flippers relied on hard money loans in order to flip a property, where you have to have a high down payment, there's high rates, and there's also strict underwriting in the process, okay? But over the past 10 years or so, many home flippers have been gravitating towards even riskier type of loans from private capital and Wall Street lenders. These are short-term loans that are designed for home flippers and small investors, and the industry now exceeds over 145 billion, and these loans often covered 90% of the project costs, and the rates were as low as 8%, sometimes even less. And a lot of these loans were made on the hope that these home prices would just continue going up forever. Not really a good strategy. And guess what? Many of these bad loans were bundled up and sold to private credit funds, just like mortgage-backed securities are. And some of these deals were even labeled investment grade. And if you've seen the movie The Big Short, that's definitely a familiar thing that we saw happen back in the day. But what happened that flipped all this upside down is interest rates spiked overnight, essentially. Also, insurance costs here in Florida completely exploded, as well as property taxes. So the carrying costs for these properties went up extremely fast overnight. And there was a ton of construction delays and labor shortages as well. And suddenly, these home flippers that thought they were going to make an easy 100K on these properties are sitting there counting how high the losses are going to be all of a sudden. So now fast forward to today, 7.4% of private lender homes from 2023 are already in foreclosure. That's why I'm saying this number is going to continue piling up. There's already that many going back to 2023. Once we get to 24 and 25 data, it's likely going to be higher. Also, national private lender foreclosures are up 82% on the year, far higher than the 14% increase in foreclosures in general year over year. And the problem is, since this is a new form of lending, it's never really been tested in a market downturn. Since it really only cropped up over the past 10 years, this hasn't been hit by one of these major housing and economic downturns. This type of lending really only works when prices continue to rise and people are able to actually flip these homes and get out within the 90-day cycle that many flippers try to do. But that business model has been flipped on its head in most cases, especially here in Florida, where inventory has absolutely exploded past what it was before the pandemic. So as usual, many of these investors looking to make a quick buck highly underestimated the carrying costs and the downside risk of many of these properties. And now the average losses are coming in at around $75,000 per home. Even if the flip gets done and you actually sell the house, the values have crashed so hard in Southwest Florida that that's what the average loss you're looking at right now. This is so bad for real estate flippers that profit margins have now sunk down to 2008 levels, guys. I mean, as I'm talking about homes being flipped, here's an example right here in Miami Shores, okay? This house was sold in April of last year for only $925,000. Then they relisted it for sale at the end of last year for $2.2 million, and they've already cut the price, and they're asking basically double what they bought this house for. Basically, no one in their right mind is going to be paying double for this house, guys. Like, even if you did remodel it and make it great, it definitely isn't worth double what it was a year ago. But this is the kind of situation that home flippers are facing on the daily right now. And many of them think that they're still having a good run, that I'm still going to be able to get this money. The market reality hasn't sunk in for a lot of them, just like many other sellers. And the thing is, the situation might be worse here in Florida than anywhere else, but it is an early warning sign of what's to come in many other markets. Any other markets across the country that has seen heavy investment and flipping activity over the past couple of years will be next, guys. It's not just going to be Florida. Just like how this whole housing downturn started with Florida, you know, we started seeing the inventory really pile up here first. Well, now Fast forward to today, inventory levels are at or above pre-pandemic levels in almost half the states in America now, within just a couple of years. And this is all happening at the same time that these foreclosure listings continue to come on the market and pile up. So every time that housing is turned into a leveraged financial trade, people get burned, guys. And everybody always thinks this time is different. Everybody kept saying that home price is going to continue going up, that we're going to see no downturn, even though it's happening right before our eyes. So once again, this problem is being caused by too much leverage, too little caution, and the belief that prices always go up. It seems like no matter how many times we go through this, it just continues to happen over and over again. But that's why I was saying, going back to the beginning of this video, this is a great opportunity for people who have been patient, guys. Like, a foreclosure could be the right opportunity for you to buy, because you're gonna get a better deal than basically anybody else buying in that neighborhood if you're willing to put in the work. And if you're lucky, sometimes you end up getting a foreclosure that really doesn't need a whole lot of work. Sometimes it's a house that was well maintained and people just got down on their luck and couldn't afford the taxes and insurance anymore. Now let's switch gears for a minute and talk about Zillow, because this is one of the main ways that people search for homes in general, not just foreclosures. And there's a big problem happening with real estate websites in general right now, not just Zillow, but Zillow is highlighted in this story because most people think that Zillow will show you every single house that's for sale, and it doesn't. And these foreclosures I was talking about is a great example of that. But right now, you know, there are hundreds, if not even thousands of homes being hidden from you on Zillow that are locked behind private broker networks. And if you're house hunting on Zillow or any other public real estate website, you might be losing out on some of the inventory that's actually out there. The real estate brokerage that's causing this big problem is Compass, guys. And in case you're not familiar with Compass, Compass is becoming the largest real estate brokerage in the entire United States. They have been eating up small real estate brokerages across the country for over a decade now, basically buying out many small brokerages and then rebranding them as Compass, and they've been taken over. And now they feel that they have enough power and leverage in the housing market that they can now have private exclusive listings that are not available to be viewed anywhere except their own website. Access to these listings is restricted to basically Compass agents and their clients. And some of the major markets where this is a big problem are places like in Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, California, and New York City. And Austin in particular, this is a big problem because prices have crashed there by well over 20% over the past few years. So it's becoming a good time to buy in Austin. And the last thing you want is to be missing out on Compass's exclusive listings. Now, according to Zillow, they say that if a home is online, then it should be online everywhere. But this new rule bans listings that are marketed publicly in one place, but withheld elsewhere. And Zillow claims this protects a fair and open marketplace. But Compass actually sued Zillow in federal court and claims Zillow is abusing monopoly power to crush the competition. And for now, Zillow has actually won the case, which actually is probably good news for you, the home buyer, if you want to be able to see all the listings available. But also, Zillow doesn't want to shoot itself in the foot, and they don't want to be the ones banning certain listings if the listing isn't displayed all over the internet. So they want to be able to show you listings even if a company like Compass says no, because if not, it hurts Zillow's bottom line. You know, if enough people are forced to search elsewhere at exclusive websites like Compass, then ultimately Zillow's losing market share of all the home buyers that are out there, because Zillow makes the lion's share of its money by basically selling real estate agents their own clients, guys. That was always my biggest beef with Zillow, because I was an agent when Zillow came on the scene. And prior to Zillow, you know, people had to come directly to real estate agents in order to get the inventory scoop, you know, and see what's online. You would sit next to your real estate agent. I did this thousands of times in the office right next to your client and show them everything that's available on the MLS. So it's very transparent. It's not like you're hiding anything. People tell you what they're looking for, and you put the filters in the MLS and you pull up the listings available. Obviously, that's time consuming and, not as practical in a world like today where everything is available at our fingertips, and buyers have gotten used to that. And it's definitely given buyers a lot more information about what's available out there. But companies like Compass are trying to reclaim those listings to being exclusive once again, where you can't see Compass listings on Zillow. And let me tell you guys, these people are taking over a lot of real estate brokerages, even big ones, guys. Compass recently just bought up Anywhere Real Estate, which includes brands like Coldwell Banker, Century 21, and Corcoran. Those are all big brands. All those brands definitely have a footprint here in Miami, and those real estate brokerages make up 25% of the U.S. home sales by volume. So the more of these brokerages that Compass buys up, then the more exclusive listings that they're going to be able to have. And Zillow is supposed to ban these listings, but in many cases they're not. So Compass's new pitch to home buyers is you got to come to Compass and you get VIP access. You get an early look, you get off-market homes and all the properties in their private database that could be for sale or you might be able to make an offer on even though it's not on the market. And now more real estate brokerages across the country are trying to copy that business model to have exclusive listings where you have to go to them. Kind of reminds me of the streaming wars. For a while, Netflix was the only game in town, right? And everything was available on Netflix until all of these big movie studios caught on. Then everything got segregated. And then you have to have Disney Plus if you want to watch Disney stuff. Then you have to have Paramount Plus if you want to watch that stuff. Then you have to have HBO, you know what I'm saying? You have to have all these different things. And if things keep moving in this direction, you might actually have to really put some scrutiny over which agent you use from which company, because that will determine which listings you'll ultimately get to be able to see. And I think this just hurts home buyers in general, guys. Like I said, if things were just the way they were before, when you had to go to a real estate agent to basically see all of the properties that were available in your area, some people will say, well, that's not good because, that gives real estate agents all the power, which it does, but real estate agents have a massive incentive to sell you a home. So giving you access to all that information and you having to come to them forged that client and real estate agent relationship, whereas nowadays there is no relationship. Everybody's searching online and they call you about one property, and if they're not interested in that, they move on. And if things keep moving in this direction, where the type of properties you're going to be able to see depends on which real estate brokerage you hire to represent you, that's not going to be good for buyers. I think everybody would agree that it's better if every real estate agent has access to all the same listings. It really levels out the playing field. Also, this is bad because it's going to increase FOMO from buyers, because buyers are going to be, signing buyer representation agreements with certain agents and brokerages. And then if they end up finding a house with somebody else, then they're going to be in this weird position where they won't be able to buy the house that they want to buy without getting into some sort of legal battle. So it looks like these real estate websites like Zillow might not be the best place to be looking for homes for sale anymore, guys. A lot of these agencies are taking back their listings and not putting them on these public platforms and forcing you to work with them if you want to see the listings that are available with them. So we'll have to see how this develops over the long term. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for any of my videos to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.